Well, I'm not sure where Abby is, but I'm going to start. Okay, hopefully she'll walk in soon. I gave everyone a handout, and if you grab that handout now, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen as well. All right. You may or may not remember that tool. We looked at it a little bit about a year ago, called Balsamic Mockup 3. All right. You are going to use that tool off and on throughout the semester. All right. And I'm asking that you do one of these in a little bit, but just to get used to using it again. Let's just take this from the top. It says using the mock-up from above, create a corresponding Android app that's called MPG01. So you're going to make two apps here. Look on the screen, please. The first one has two edit texts with hints in them and two buttons. The second one is the same thing, but it has text views and then no hints. See the difference? All right. I will tell you, I've already shown this to you, but this is what mine looks like. By no means am I saying, I mean, if Chris, later says, hey, come look at mine, it looks a hell of a lot better than yours does. Good. All right. But I will tell you, don't be surprised. This can be, that using this editor can be unbelievably frustrating. Especially when you're trying to go and sync stuff up like I've been showing you. Today, no matter where I put this button, I could have it down here. But when it was running, it was coming up in here. If that happens, stop trying to change it in design view. Go over to text view. Take a look at how everything is set up in there. All right. I would start, if I were you, I would start by taking a look at the interface and saying, okay, this is going to be a text view. This is going to be an image view. This is going to be an edit text, a button, and a button. This is a toast, so we don't worry about that. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements here in your user interface. So try to set it up. Don't worry about how pretty it is or whatever, but try to set it up and make sure it looks the way that it should look. As you are doing that, again, if you would please look on the screen. All right. Again, when you're in here and you're in design mode, this thing right here, this is going to tell you the name of all of your controls, and it's going to tell you if anything is out of whack, so to speak. So if you don't have all of if your stuff here basically hasn't been constrained, you're going to get messages there. If you've got something that hasn't been constrained, as an example, please look on the screen. There's a real good chance that if I take this button, put it right there, and do no constraints, just put it there, and I run the program, it's going to snap up right here when the program runs. That's just the way that the layouts work. It's called a constrained layout, or a constraint layout, because it expects you to set up constraints. All right, so please get used to using, I'm not saying my names are great, but please get used to using names. In fact, now that I look at it, my image view, I probably should have changed it and called it like image view MPG. All right, the rest of them are pretty decent. Try to have as few errors in your component tree as possible. Ideally, no errors. Now I've got these two warnings here. It says missing auto-filled hints attribute. All right, and I'm not even sure what that is, but you can look it up if you get it, or otherwise you can leave something like that. But try to set up the interface. If you make this too big, where I've got Jeff Scott's miles per gallon MPG program, if it's too big, it's going to be it'll go multi-line, or at least try to. All right, so mine isn't that big. You can put it over 2 lines if you want to. In fact, there should be a property here that is under text view. I believe there's a property here that says, it's not multi-line, but it says max lines. So if I wanted it to be able to be over 3 lines, I could set max lines to 3. Does that make sense? All right. So try to set that up. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally give you about an hour and a half to work on this. Now, get a break or two in there. Well, that's fine. But I will ask around 3, how are people doing? And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to key in my code. Or if I think I've got it in there already, or show you my code. There might be things I thought of that you didn't think of. There could be things you thought of that I didn't think of. Either way, that's fine. All right? Now, looking back at this then, if you do, let's just say, hey, it came to me. I got it done. It was cool. All right? So you got this first one done. Then turn over the first page, and you see a second page that looks almost identical to it. So what you should be able to do is once you've got this project like this, you can do a file, and I thought there was a save project as, but maybe there isn't. You want to essentially you want to dupe it. All right? If you get the first one done, I'm not even going to worry about that. Okay, we'll talk about it then. Then look at the second page. It says, now it's your turn. Create 2 apps that are very similar to the ones we just looked at. BMI, or Body Mass Index 1, and Body Mass Index 2. You might say, oh God, not BMI again. What was this? Or put something like that on your first test. I figured this way this would really help you when you do your first test. See if you can create your own mock-up. Please look on the screen. Most important part of this. If you go out to udemy.com and you search for wireframing with balsamic mock-up, there is a free course out there. It's got about 10 or 11 lectures in it. It takes about a half an hour. You don't have to watch it now, but you might want to sign up for that free class. They'll probably ask you to register. Doesn't cost anything. You don't get emails from them. All right, but it's free. So when it comes up, like I said, just in the search box, something like wireframing with balsamic mock-up, pick the free one. Look on the screen here. When I did it, it came up with, come on, these 3 things. These were the first 3. The middle one was free. That's the one I chose. All right, 8 lectures it says. So that's it. It says it takes about an hour. You can watch it today if you want to. Please be respectful of everybody else. So if you've got earbuds or whatever, you might want to use those. But eventually, watch this. At 3 o'clock then, I will ask, how are people doing? All right, and either then or by 3:30, I'm going to show you what I did. If you want to follow along, great. You want to try to add your own code and do it yourself, even better. You all know what it is. All right, you put in a value for miles, put in a value for gallons, you divide miles by gallons, boom, there's your MPG. Questions? You're not turning this in. I'm just trying to get you, like I said, get you going with this stuff. Hopefully by the sometime early next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, we will have our first test. All right? That's all I'm going to say for now. So are people making progress? Do you understand how to build the interface? All right, where you may have had problems or maybe couldn't figure out, maybe you did figure it out, was when you come in here for the for setting up the image view, all right, and you actually want to fill it with a value, so to speak, all right. There's different ways that it can be done, but if you look in here, there are all, here's the layout constraint from top to bottom. I got the title, etc. Where is it? Let's remove it and put it back in again. How's that? All right. So hopefully, let's see. Can I do it that way? Nope. Oh, I can. Good. All right. I'm going to see if I can remove. Well, we'll do it this way. That's fine. All right. So I did come in. I went up here, put an image view. There it is. Grabbed it, dragged it or drug it, whatever you want to say, in there. All right. Now, remember how I did it, but I don't remember how I did it. So I remember going through all these, and on the bottom of one of them, or in one of them, was the file. I don't remember offhand which one it was, but you have to choose one of the options there. Doesn't appear to have been that one. So it's one of the ones that's in here. Could have been project, doesn't look like it'd be that. Could have been Android. But it was one of the ones, you had to choose one of the ones that were in here. Alright? That's not that big a thing. And really and truly, even if you think it is, it's not that big a thing. What I'm most concerned with were if you had problems setting up the interface, did you have any luck then going back into text view and trying to make sure they were in sync? Somebody answer. Alright? Because next week, we're going to do another one of these tomorrow, or one or two. And then on Friday, we're going to actually start doing kind of like a class project. But sometime next week, probably Wednesday, you're going to have your first test. And I'm going to ask you to create one or two of these. All right? So what you're going to have to do is if you've got questions on it or if something doesn't make sense, you're going to have to ask. All right? And I'll tell you what I'm going to do then. I'm not hearing a lot, so I'm going to go back to here. I've removed all my code. Ran off a copy first, but I removed all my code. Okay? I did this in a very similar way to the way that we had done this in other languages. Now, just so you know, I came in, I made some constants, minimum miles, minimum gallons used, maximum gallons used. And again, I put arbitrary values there. I also made a couple strings that I made for constants. And one of them says, no miles driven inputted, resetting and returning. The other one says, no gallons used inputted, resetting and returning. All right? So I'm going to put in the code right now. If you want to follow along, fine. If you don't, that's your call. I can give you a hard copy if anybody does want this. All right, when I'm done. But I'm going to first just, program constants. So I made the minimum miles that you would drive would be 1. Kind of stupid, but so I had a number there. And I said the maximum number of miles you could drive was 1,000. Again, those are arbitrary values. You could change those to anything you wanted to change them to. It doesn't matter. I said the minimum number of gallons you could use was equal to 1, and the maximum gallons you could use was 100. Again, I also made 2 strings. The first one I called no miles input. Put this on another line because otherwise it's going to go right off the screen. right, so those are my constants, and the reason I made those last two constants is I put those into the toast, just to show you another way that you can create a toast. All right, not that it had to be done this way, of course not. And again, please believe me when I tell you, I'm not saying that the way I did all this is the best way it could be done. I'm not saying that the way I did this is better than the way any of you have done it. All right? You're doing it using your own programming style. So again, 4 integer constants, minimum miles driven, maximum miles driven, minimum gallons used and maximum gallons used, and then 2 string constants. All right? One for you didn't input any miles, one you didn't input any gallons used. Okay? Hopefully all that makes sense, but let me ask, any questions on those? Anything? All right. Then I made my program variables. I'm still up over everything. I'm right underneath where it says main activity. Oops, hate that. So, program variables, and I made 4 of them. Edit text. I called my first one edit text. Miles. Again, if you didn't use these names, all right, you're going to have to make sure that whatever names you used, that you change your code accordingly. And I didn't realize it until I got all done. I could have called this edit text miles used and edit text gallons used, because I think that's what I call them on the actual interface, but it doesn't really matter much one way or the other. Got the 2 buttons. I don't even think I needed a button clear in here. I don't think I used it anyplace. So, string. You've seen this before. Output string. All right. And you'll notice that for my variables, I did not initialize any of them. All right. One thing we haven't really gotten into yet is how to combine all this stuff together. What I mean is interfaces, classes, exception handling, etc. Some of the stuff that we've learned last week, how to put that in here. So I went back and I put some exception handling in, so you can see that in here, so we can start to bring in the other stuff. All right, then I came into here, and I basically, again, kind of set up those variables. I think you're all smart enough to realize this, but I'm going to say it again anyway. That is, looking at this here, I'm going to have a variable for that edit text, one for that edit text, and one for my button, my calculate button. Why didn't I have one for my clear button? I could have, but I did that the second way I showed you for setting up buttons. All right, you're going to see all that in just a couple minutes. All right, oops. All right, so smaller. Close that. Just totally close it. There we go. Again, what I'm showing you here, these are just things you're going to do. All right? And, well, I need a better explanation on that. Well, that's the one I'm giving you. All right? We are letting the system know that this variable that we created up here, that variable, equates to that Android control. This variable to that Android control, and this variable to that Android control. You should be able to look at either your design on the screen or the piece of paper I gave you and realize this is one edit text, the one where we enter miles driven. This is another edit text, where we put the gallons used, and this is one of the buttons. In particular, it is the calculate button. I set the calculate button up using that set on click listener. I'm going to say it again. You don't have to look, but please listen. I set up the first button that you see right here, that button, the one that says calculate. I set that one up using that set on click listener. The other one I set up the other way. All right? Because I asked you to do one of each. So, button calculate equals, button calculate dot set on click listener. Remember, I told you before there's a shortcut here. You can say new, the letter V, and hit enter. And then it creates all that for you. All right? This is going to be the code for the button click event. And this is probably the biggest routine in here. In fact, I can say with a lot of certainty it is. This is going to be about 50 lines long. All right? When we write the other one, it's going to be about 5 lines long. We should be able to finish this. All right? I'd like to finish it by 4. So inside of here, I am creating 3 variables. Double miles, which I'm setting equal to 0. Double gallons, which I'm setting equal to 0. And double MPG, which I'm setting equal to 0. I believe by now you all get this, but even though I put 0, it actually is setting it up as 0.0. You can put that in there. You can leave it off. It really and truly doesn't matter one way or the other. All right? Now, I'm going to go back to the design, but I'll come right back to the code. If you look on the screen, please. I said there were 3 possible conditions. First, I put nothing in here. I just left it blank. Well, I want to not handle, I want to handle that. I don't want it to be blank input. I don't like that. That was one thing. The user leaves one or both of the edit texts blank. That's first thing. Second thing, they put something in both of the edit texts, but one or both is out of range, are out of range. Either you put in gallons that are too many or not enough, or miles driven that are too many or not enough. And the third possibility is you put in valid values. So I tried to account for all 3 of those conditions. All right, what does that mean? That means as you look in here now, I ended up inside of here using 2 different try-catch statements. I did not create my own exception handler. I used Java's. So I'm going to put in a try block right here. All right, it'll be followed in a minute by a catch. Okay. I do want everybody in here to remember the way this works. Inside of this try block, I'm going to put code in that could conceivably fail. I'm defining, I'm I'm basically defining two cases as failure cases. One, you put in something that is not a number, or you leave it blank. All right. The other one is you put in something that's a number, but it's out of range. I'm going to account for both of those. All right. So in this try block, I came in here and I said miles equals double dot parse double. Remember that? We worked with double and with parse different things before. All right. And again, I may run out of room here. I don't know. So edit text miles dot get text dot to string. Yeah, that's too big for this, so I'm going to put it over 2 lines. Why? So you can see it. Okay. Read value from first edit text attempt to parse and put in variable miles. All right, so that's what I'm trying to do right now. Okay. Now, if you put in a value, please listen to this. Look on the screen, okay? I had my choice. If I come through here and I put in negative 100 right there, I had my choice over how I wanted to handle it. I chose not to use a toast. I could have, but what I chose to do is if you put a value in here that's numeric but it's out of range, what I did was I reset the value to 0. I reset the value, I should say, inside of here to the empty string. I reset the variable to 0, and I gave it the focus. Does everybody understand what I just said? If you put a value into one of these two edit texts, and that value that you put in is out of range, what I did was I just removed the value from there, which is going to put back the hint, all right? And then I gave it the focus, and then I got out. I didn't want to go on anymore. All right, what does that mean? Well, let's look at it as far as code, what we did. Okay? So I put this into a while loop. You've seen this many times before. While miles less than min miles driven, or, again, I'm putting a lot of this on 2 lines because I want to make sure you can read it. Or miles greater than max miles driven. So if one of those 2 cases are true, okay, what did I want to do? I wanted to come in and first set miles equal to 0. Then I take my edit text, dot, look on the screen, first time set text. It's a setter. I'm setting it equal to the empty string, and I gave it the wrong name. It's edit text miles. All right. So I set the text equal to the empty string. This is how you set the focus in here. You say edit text, or I'm sorry, you say the name of the control dot, and it's request focus. That sets the focus. And I returned. All right. So let's put a comment in here that says, make sure miles driven within range. That's what I'm doing. So look at the value that I put in there into that edit text. Okay? If I left it blank, it's not even going to get this far. It's going to jump right to the catch, which we're going to write in a minute. But if it gets to here, then we have put something in that is a number, but it's out of range. If we get in here, all right? So what am I catching? Coming down here then, and I'm going to catch a Java exception. Number format exception. All right? Most programmers always call their exceptions E. I don't do that. I don't know why, but since it's a number format exception, I call it NFE, for number format exception. Okay, I don't need those. I need extra curlies. Let me get rid of those. Oops. So again, this is what I'm going to do if I find an error in my input. All right, and the way I decided to handle it was to use a toast. I'm sorry, that was wrong. I want no, that's right. That's right. Input, comma, comma. I thought. There's the catch. Once everybody has it put in, I'm going to go over every bit of it. Not hearing anybody typing. Again, we come in here, we read the value that was in that first or leftmost edit text. After we read it, we attempt to convert it to a double by using a parse double. The way you do that is it's the name of the edit text dot get the text inside. Since that's a method, you need the parentheses dot then convert it to a string. All right. After we've done that, we've got something in miles. If it's not a number, it's already going to jump down to here because it's a number format exception. But if it gets down to here, it's a number, but now we're going to check to see if it's a number within range. If it's too small of a number, meaning it's 0 or below, or it's too large of a number, meaning it's 1001 or above, we're just resetting our variable miles back to what it was, 0, or I could again say 0.0, it doesn't matter. Okay, then I'm making sure that the actual edit text gets set back to the empty string. What that'll do is that should just re-show our hint that's in there. All right, then we request the focus, meaning again, put the cursor there and get out. On the other hand, if we put an invalid value in for miles, we leave it blank and we click our calculate button. It's going to find that and it's going to say that's a number format exception. So we make a toast. That toast will say what we put in that string before, something like no miles input value inputted, resetting and returning. We'll make that a long toast. We'll show the toast and we will get out. So if you look on the screen here, if we get down all the way to right here, if we get down to that point, that means we read in a valid miles driven. So if we reach this point, miles inputted was valid. Okay? So I'm going to do the same thing down here to try to make it a little faster. I'm going to copy all this. Maybe this is stupid. I don't like to normally copy 30 or 40 lines, but I'm going to try it anyway. And now I got to make all these changes. All right. Now, read the value from the second edit text and attempt to parse it and put it into gallons. So it's basically the same thing. Instead of using miles, we're using gallons. So make sure you change everything that where you referred to miles or miles driven, make sure you change it to gallons or gallons used. I believe that's all correct. So, again, if we reach this point, the point of the second try, miles inputted was valid. If we reach down here, we get that far. If we reach this point, both miles and gallons inputted were valid. Since we know we've got two valid figures, now we can go in and figure out our miles per gallon. All right. Now I'm going to build my toast. Sounds a little weird. But I'm going to build what I'm going to print out at the end. All right. Okay, I'll come right back to it. Let's see if it works. File, save all. Let's just run it, see if it works. Now, if clear doesn't work yet because I didn't put in that code, let's see if the gallons used works. I'm going to come in and put nothing into my miles, nothing. And should just pop no miles driven, inputted, resetting, and returning. And there it is. All right. I'm going to put something that's out of range in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What happens? It just gets removed and the cursor gets put there. Let's try 300 miles and we used 10 gallons. All right. Calculate. Says you drove 300 miles. You used 10 gallons. Try it again. Your MPG was 30. It looks like it works. All right. And then I have to come in and check the same things here. If I leave, all right, if I leave gallons empty, no gallons used inputted, good. All right, and it puts the cursor there. If I put something there that's out of range, it just removes it and puts the cursor there. If I put something that's within range, it now works. The clear will not work right now because I didn't put the code in yet. That's about 5 more lines. All right, I'll put that in. No, that's not good. Every once in a while you'll get this where it says it stopped. That means you got an error in your app someplace. All right, I may have pressed the clear button. Since I have no code, that would make it blow up. All right, so let me put that code in. Okay, and I want to be outside of this on create thing. So I want to be after that. So right here, I'm going to make literally, it's, I think, 6 lines long. Public void clear all. That's just a name I made up rather. Doesn't mean anything. And I want to say edit text miles dot set text. I want to clear that out. Edit text gallons dot set text. I want to clear that out. And edit text miles dot request focus. That's it. So now I have to do those other 2 things and then we can run it, see if the clear works. I'm going to do a save all. I'm going to come back here, click on this button right there, go to on click. You may or may not see a clear all there. All right, I've got one, so I'm going to hit enter, put it in and hit enter. And then I'm going to also go over in text mode and make sure that button has Android on click equal clear all. All right. Like I said, I will be more than happy to print out. I'll print out the Java, see if you can get yours to work, and then you please try to do the other one, which is mainly this one, but you're going to be adding to it the text views. All right, do that so you start honing in on how to make an interface. All right, so now the clear should work. So let's see if it does. I'll just put valid values in there, 420. All right, there it is. Now does clear work? Yeah, it does. Cleared them both, and it set the cursor there accordingly. All right. So again, I will print out hard copies. Should just be a page or so of the main activity. And as I told you, this is just the way I did it. By no means am I saying this is the only way, the best way, or any of that stuff. I'm saying, again, this is how I did it. All right. So I will print that out in a moment. And that means that so far I asked you to work on this one, and then I showed you how I did this one. You can now, if you want to, and just so you know, please look on the screen. All right. Abby, this is kind of what you would ask me before, so I looked it up. If you want to make a copy of your project, you select the project, you right mouse click on it, and you choose refactor, copy. In Android Studio, say you want to make a copy of it. You say yes. Then it'll ask you for a name, and then it'll put it out there. All right? And that was just the first one that came up. It was from Stack Overflow. You can, last thing, I promise, look on the screen. What's going to happen, just so you know, occasionally you'll be like, you know what, I don't know how to do this. Jeff's busy, or he probably doesn't know either, so I'm going to Google it. If you Google things for Android with Java, say Java Android or Android Java. If you leave off the word Android, it thinks you're using regular Java. If you leave off the word Java, it might give you Kotlin. See what I'm saying? So use both words when you're searching for something. All right? Okay. It's 3:40, so that's all I had. So please try to get this to work by the end of the period. All right? And then what we'll do is tomorrow, when we start at 12:35, I will give you about an hour approximately to see if you can build the same application but with BMI. And then we'll go over and I'll show you how I did it. All right? And then we'll go on from there. Questions? I hope it started at least